In this video, we'll discuss how percents are used with taxes. Now, one idea is to use it with sales tax, and this is when we add a tax on to a good or service. In Virginia, this is 5 3/10% for most sales, but groceries we only charge 2.5%. We also charge meals tax at restaurants, which is additional to the Virginia sales tax, and this is often by locality. For example, in Radford, that's 5.5%. So whenever you purchase a meal, you're actually going to end up paying 10 8/10% because you have to pay both the sales and the meal tax. Now, the way we calculate our taxes is that we have to remember that taxes are always going to increase that total cost. So one way to get that total final cost is to say that we're going to take our final price, and that's going to be equal to our pre-tax price plus the percent times that pre-tax price. The other ways we can set up the proportions like we've done before with percents. We're going to look at the final price over the pre-tax price is equal to 100% plus that tax percent. So let's say that we had a retail price for a bottle of shampoo is $4.75. If we say that the sales tax is 5 3/10%, we want to know what's the final price we're going to pay for that shampoo. What we can do if we use that first option is we can say it's the $4.75 is going to be our retail, whereas the final price is what we're trying to find. So we'll do final price equals the retail price plus, again, that retail price over on the right-hand side, and then our tax percent, which is the 5.3%. But we have to remember that that as a decimal is 53 thousandths. So now we can multiply and then add together, and whenever we're dealing with money, we round to the nearest penny, which is 2 decimal places. So in this case, when we look, that's going to be the second zero to the right. That tells us to keep it as a 0. So it would cost $5 for the final price of the shampoo. In other words, we're going to be paying 25 cents in tax on this bottle of shampoo. Now, the other method we could use is the proportion. So let's look at that. Here, if I take all my different parts, I know that my pre-tax price was the $4.75. I know I'm paying 5.3% in taxes, and I want to find that final price. So I can multiply both sides by the $4.75, and that will leave me with X on my left side, and I'm going to multiply that by the 1 53 thousandths. Again, what we did in option 1 in reality, and we get the exact same price when we round to the nearest cent. Now, we can also look at the idea of property and income taxes. Now, one thing that's important to recognize is that whenever you hear the word gross salary versus net salary, we're talking about before or after your salary is with taxes. So the gross salary is when someone says this is what I make at a job, they're most likely talking about that gross salary. So when we want to know what do we pay in taxes, just what is the amount in taxes, we take that tax rate and then we can multiply it by our salary. You can do this with goods as well. If we wanted to know like the amount of tax on that shampoo, we could have just did the tax rate times the cost of the shampoo. Now, the other thing to remember though is that when we're dealing with taxes on property and income, that's removed from the value that we have. So we're actually going to subtract that cost from our salary or from the property's value. So in this case, we can do that gross salary minus the tax rate times the gross salary, or we can do our proportional reasoning, but just remember that the net salary over the gross salary will equal 100% minus that tax rate. So let's look at an example. Say a local teacher earned a salary of $48,000, and they paid 18% in income taxes. Maybe the first thing we know is, well, how much did they pay in income taxes? So if we take that tax rate and multiply it by the gross salary, we can get that amount in taxes. So we're going to calculate the taxes by saying 18% times the $48,000, which again, that's 1/1800 times 48,000, which is $8,640 in taxes. Now maybe you want to know, well, what's their net salary? That's our other question we can ask. So if we want to know what's that net income they made, we'd be taking the gross salary and then subtracting our tax rate times the gross income. Well, the gross salary we found already, and this tax rate times gross income is what they paid in taxes. That's what we just found here, so we can just take this amount and subtract it. So in the end, they would have made $39,360, as their net salary. Now we could also have done this with the proportional reasoning. Here, we don't know our net salary, but we know our gross salary is the $48,000, and we know the tax rate is the 18%. So we're going to subtract that and find our net salary. So really, they're making 82% of their gross salary is the way to think about this. We multiply both sides by the 48,000 and then multiply that by 82%, and you're going to get the exact same amount, $39,360. So it doesn't matter which of these methods we use as long as we pay attention to how the parts go together.